Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of East Got Game, where we give you the X's, the O's, and the insights of NBL 1 East. Thank you for joining us tonight live on YouTube and Instagram. Remember, you can follow us on Instagram and Facebook at East Got Game, or you can continue to find our episodes on your preferred streaming platforms. And while you're there, check out Cut to the Jace podcast featuring current Bankstown Bruin Jason Kadee, and It's a Cole World, a podcast by WNBL champion Bet Cole, both brought to you by basketball.com.au. And no, you are not seeing or hearing things. It is me, Lockie, doing the intro rather than Squin tonight because Squin is otherwise occupied. So we have a very special guest here for his first appearance since, I think, season 1 of East Got Game, Robbie Clayton from Hills. Robbie, welcome. Lovely to have you joining us this evening.
Good evening, Lockie. Great to be here. Look, pretty big shoes to fill, obviously, with Squin being out tonight, but I'll do my best, right?
I'm sure you will do a great job. We'll be covering your beloved Hornets after their amazing victory over the Albury-Wodonga Bandits down there at the Hideout. It was have you recovered yet?
Well, my voice is slowly coming back. Look, we sort of touted this as being the game of the week last week, didn't we? And it didn't disappoint. It went right down to the wire there. So, no, looking forward to chat about that one with you tonight.
It certainly was. But we do have a few discussion points. And I guess the first one, rather topical, Coach Matt Kowalczyk stepping down as the head coach of the Albury-Wodonga men, which is a tough situation because he's been quite a loyal servant of the club.
Yeah, it was a bit of a surprise. I mean, maybe surprise for us sort of being outside, away from the Albury-Wodonga team there. But yeah, look, he's been there for a couple of seasons. He's very highly regarded there. And look, the team started off slowly. There's no doubt about that. They, I think they were none of 3 before he stepped down, and then they lost again on the weekend. Spoiler alert. But look, bit of a surprise there. I think the press statement that's gone out, that he wanted to sort of focus on family and all those sort of things. He's been, coaching for 8 years. I believe he was a youth league coach before he took over there, Lockie. So, big part of that team there. But look, sometimes family comes first if that's the case. So if that's the reasons, we wish him all the best, I guess, right?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, sometimes you just think, I've given everything. It's not working anymore. What I'm putting in isn't getting the results that it once was, and sometimes you just got to step back.
And we've got to realise as well, for some of these coaches, it's not their full-time work gig, is it? He's probably got a 9 to 5, Monday to Friday, and then he's doing the practicing, playing with Albury-Wodonga. You're pretty much on the road every second week and doing monster road trips there. I was looking that up on the weekend. They're so much closer to Melbourne, aren't they? I know they were in the NBL 1 South, in 2021 before the NBL 1A started. But, yeah, a lot of big road trips to come up to Sydney all the time.
Yeah, I mean, they still play in the South Blitz in pre-season because it's just easier for them.
I wonder what the reason was for that, for them coming over to the East after being in the South there. It's hard to say, isn't it?
Oh, it is. South. I mean, South has a lot of teams already as well, and we could always at the time we could really have used the extra teams definitely because that was back when it was only a 12-team league in the East. So
and we're not going to complain because we got to commentate Lauren Jackson for a few seasons there as well.
So it was exactly. Cool. yeah. I feel that one. Something I don't know that we need to discuss the logistics of it. Maybe it's about transparency in the league with Mo Cone signing with Illawarra when they already have 2 NBL players and Matt Mims. So Blanchfield, Peatling, Mims, and now Cone, who, I mean, as soon as the news dropped, we got a message in our DMs on the East Got Game Instagram saying, isn't this 4 restricted players when you can have 2 actual imports and then 1 Asia Pacific or NBL player import? For me, I'm not across, what each player's status is, but do you think we just need more transparency on these things?
I think it's a good call, Lockie. I mean, I even went through looking at the various bylaws and those sort of things, and there's all the all the legal jargon and clause 15.1 category A and all those sort of things. But yeah, I think you're right. It just would be good for it to be broken down a little bit more, because I guess from the outside looking in, exactly what you said there, it's like, how is this working there? Is there something we've missed there? Certainly none of those guys were juniors. I think we're pretty safe on that there. So yeah, it's a little bit strange, isn't it? I mean, look, good for the Hawks, isn't it? They're absolutely loaded. I mean, Cone had a great game against Illawarra last year, and you see that sometimes, don't you? That the player plays really well against that team, and then the team then looks to sign him. So I think he went off. Was it 38 points or something like that last year when he was playing for Hornsby? So yeah, pretty good signing for them. But I think you're right. A little bit of transparency would be nice, just to see how they managed to do that, and maybe that's something people can contact us if they do have any further information on that we've missed there.
Yeah, 100%. Drop a comment on the video if you know exactly what each player's status is. I mean, I was commentating with Hornsby's James Mullen for a university game on Friday, and he was saying Mo might not get the same same minutes he got at Hornsby Ku-ring-gai, but he'll definitely slot in there well for them. So I mean, more power to them if they can make it all work.
That's it. Yeah.
And speaking of signings, one that dropped today, Shyla Heal back at Bankstown. That was massive news, particularly the Bruins, strong squad on the face of it, but they had a tough draw to start, but only I think 2-2 at this stage. But things really changed with the addition of Shyla.
It was a big signing, wasn't it? I think she played, maybe 7 games last season there before she, I think, went over for an overseas. She got injured as well, didn't she? I think last year. But look, she's obviously familiar there. You mentioned off air, like she's got some teammates that she knows well, that she's played with for a while there. Dale being one of them there. So yeah, look, they're loaded on both the men's and the women's teams now, Bankstown. I believe Bankstown's got another import to come in the men's team as well. I've heard a little buzz about that, which I'll keep to my chest at the moment, but that could be something that's announced pretty shortly. But yeah, look, in terms of the women's team, and look, the women's league is just going from strength to strength, isn't it? Every team seems to just be loading up, and I feel like there's still more to come. There's plenty of weeks left where you can still sign people there. So yeah, that's a big coup for Bankstown. I'm just disappointed I'm not seeing them this year. They don't make a trip to Hills, so don't get to see Alex Higgins-Titcher and Jason Cadee and Shyla Hill. That's a bit of a shame. Yeah,
we're in the same boat. I think they might play at Comets, but I'll be at Sutherland on whatever weekend that is. So
interesting. I'd love to know how they do this scheduling. Like, this is the 3rd year in a row that Newcastle haven't played at Hills. It's really strange. I got me a Nicole Munger WNBL jersey a couple of years ago. I thought, I'll get that signed next time she's at Hills. But no, every year Newcastle don't play against us there. So a little bit strange. But yeah, I guess maybe next year might be the year.
I can't remember the last time I saw Manly at Sutherland.
Interesting.
Which is
strange, isn't it?
Real interesting. I guess we should discuss how do you see Shyla fitting into this lineup? Because obviously she played alongside Davida at Comets, and they were the backcourt.
Yeah,
but it really feels like Talia and Davida could look to be set as the starting backcourt. But we know Talia can play a number of positions.
Yeah, I mean, maybe you switch Talia to the 3 there, but look, Shyla's she has the ball in her hands a lot. I think we've seen that over the years there. She's a high volume shooter. She's a good distributor there. So look, I'm sure with someone with the talent she's got, they can make that work. But yeah, I don't mind that actually, putting Talia to the 3. She's got the good body type that she can go up against, threes, and I think out-muscle those and get them to the basket and get close to the basket and get on the line, which we know she does so well there. So yeah, I mean, that's going to be an absolute problem for opposition defenses, isn't it?
Certainly is. I mean, I remember seeing Talia back playing Siebel for the Sydney Uni Sparks, playing alongside what was basically an academy side. Like, we're talking like 16, 17-year-old Kim Hodge and players or Kim Dickinson. And she was playing the 4 and the 5 because she was just bigger than everyone else on the roster.
Yeah. Working her way around the league. She's had a few stops now, but I think any team would be pretty happy to have her.
And I think the final discussion point I think the big one that we've been talking about it off air a bit, is game of the week. So far this season, it's been highly concentrated amongst 3 particular clubs, and it's very much looking like it's trended towards the quality of the men's matchup being the primary focus so far. Because it's been a three-way round robin between Illawarra, Maitland, and Canberra so far, all 3 games of the week.
It's strange, isn't it? I'd love to know how they work this out, because it almost feels like last year most teams were getting a chance for game of the week. So I don't know if this is something that they've had organised at the start of the year and it's kind of luck of the draw the way it's worked out. You haven't had one yet, have you, in comments?
No,
or something?
No, we haven't had one. We don't have. This week is Hornets Bruins at Bankstown.
Yeah.
No.
You know, the good thing when you do get one, Lockie, you get those comfortable headphones, right? That's the good thing about it. You get those extra nice, comfy headphones. But, yeah, look, it's an interesting one. Like I said, I think they probably would have that schedule planned out in advance there. But hopefully every team gets a go. Like, it shouldn't really matter on ladder position in the men's or the women's. Give everyone a go. You know, give every team a couple of games. I think Hills might have had 2 games last year from memory. And, look, it is a good thing there. It's, you know, you get the extra cameras. You get a few little extra goodies, I guess, when you're commentating. So from a commentating point of view, it's a good thing. But yeah, I guess just for fans around the league, you want them to be able to see, you know, as many teams as possible and not just the same teams all the time.
Yeah, 100%. And when you think like this week, we've got Canberra Newcastle COE in the women's and Manly Albury Wodonga. Those are 2 massive matchups. Last week, North and Albury Wodonga women got the 11 a.m. Sunday morning slot. Like,
yeah.
What do we? You know, some of these really big. There are some big time matchups in the women's game. I know we want to get the season off to a good start with, you know, these title contenders being you know, showcased, but
yeah,
there's title contenders on the women's side also.
Absolutely right.
Facing off in early stages of the season.
Yeah.
So moving on, we are reviewing at Robbie's request the Hills Albury men's game, and it turned out to be an absolute barn burner. It finished 92-90 in Hills' favour, and it was back and forth the whole way. Albury got out to a lead, Hills brought it back. Hills marched on with it a little bit, and then Albury Wodonga almost got over the top in the final minutes. But Robbie, looking at this game, I'm sure you were watching it live. What were your overall impressions of the game?
I thought it was very entertaining. There's no doubt about it. It was close. I think the second half might have been equal. I think, it was 43 all at half time, and then they sort of, obviously Hills ended up with 2 more points in the second half there. But I thought it was a good standard game. I felt like there was quite a lot to play for both teams. I mean, obviously Albury Wodonga were pretty desperate to get that first win. I've got that new coach theory I always talk about in all sports as well. That can sometimes help a team. But I think even for Hills, you know, being 1 and 2 at the time, they did not want to drop to 1 and 3. I know they've got high hopes this year. I think I've talked them up a little bit to Squin before the season started for both the men's and the women's teams for Hills. But yeah, I think it was a big one for them. Hills do have a really big run of home games coming up as well, so they wanted to try and take care of business. And yeah, look, I mean, what a good thing for the team, though. I know they got the bus to this game there, so it's a shame, you know, obviously for the women they went down there, but would have been a pretty good feeling on that bus coming home there. And look, I'm sure we'll talk about him, Lockie, but Meekness Payne, he was huge in that game. Absolutely came up huge at the end.
He certainly was huge, yeah, especially at the end. That's exactly one thing I did note down that. But I mean, everything was so eerily similar. Like, you get sometimes these really close games and one team does it one way, one team does it the other way. But you look at the stats, field goals almost, I mean, they both took the same amount of field goal attempts. 33 of 75 for Albury, 31 of 75. You know, Hills, you know, doing a little bit better from 2-point range.
Well, they were 58% on twos, weren't they? That was crazy. And it felt like in the first half they were perhaps, you know, bombing a little bit away from the 3-point line. I think they were, was it 2 of 17 in the first half? I think. I'm not great at maths, Lockie, but that's a pretty ordinary percentage there.
You don't need to be good at maths to know that's not good.
To know that, yeah. But look, they definitely were going well inside, which is, you know, you're playing against a team with a really big inside presence in Majuk there, but you know, a great percentage there, and I think that maybe opened up things a little bit and sort of led them to getting some more open threes in that second half there.
But we'll start at the beginning and the first quarter. And I think I say this about him every time I watch him. Harking back to last year's opening game for Bankstown, where he had 3 blocks in the opening quarter. I could watch Gun Majak play defense all day.
Yeah.
He just, from the very first possession, he just played disciplined defense. And in the first quarter, it really, I think, set the tone inside that despite Albury Wodonga having these star players in their front court,
He was a pretty underrated, under the radar signing for the Hornets, I thought. Obviously, he had some time at Bankstown there. Hills had, Den Gack last year, who was a star, but I think he was probably a little bit hard to afford for any NBL 1 East team, I would have thought. But yeah, getting Gum across. I mean, first off with Gum, absolutely terrific guy there. So he's really, fit into that group really well. But you're right, on defense, he just adds another dimension to that Hills team. He's not the tallest center. He's a big guy, but there's definitely centers that have got some more size than him. But he's got some great timing there. I think that's probably the big thing I'm noticing with him. And as long as you can keep him out of foul trouble, we did see him, have quite a few fouls against Manly with some of those big guys they had on that team in round 2 there. But yeah, he was huge. And like you said, setting the tone with those early blocks there and just sort of, letting that Albury Wodonga team know that he was there and they were feeling his presence for sure.
Yeah, and I feel like Albury Wodonga, they had a bit of trouble getting through their sets early compared to Hills. I think Hills really settled into the game and got through their offenses. They ran a couple of very similar sets early on. They seem to love a wing 3, do the Hornets.
Yeah. Well, even with the sets with the Bandits there, I mean, that could even be the result of having that new coach there, because I'm sure you're going to come in and run some similar sets and try and keep a reasonably similar offense to what you're doing. But I'm sure a new coach has got some ideas and trying to implement some things. And it's hard to implement new sets in practice. You've got to try it in games there. But yeah, I think you're right. He'll sort of control things a little bit better. Big one for me in that first half was Ned Carr as well. He was someone, look, I saw him in the preseason against, the NBL 1 national champions, Canberra, and he put up 30 points in a preseason tie of all things, Lockie. So that game actually was tied at the end. Everyone's looking around, what's going on? All the coaches are shaking hands. We're not playing overtime. This is preseason. So he was really big in that. And I was sort of waiting for him to have that big game because I think he's still someone that's a little bit of an unknown, I think. He's played in the Big V last year. Also had some time in the NBL 1 South, but he was huge in that first half. 11 points and 6 rebounds, and was probably Hill's best player there. But look, as we said, 43 all in the first half, and we'll probably have got some notes for the second quarter as well. But it was certainly tight throughout that whole first half.
Certainly. Well, and Ned Carr, I was wondering what to expect from him because, as you said, he played in Big V and he went off in Big V, which is the same league Meek Payne came from, and a couple of other players have come up.
Ish Sanders as well, another Hornets import there. Don't call him Edward Carr as well. So I notice all the graphics have Edward Carr. He definitely goes by Ned. So
yeah. Yeah, and I was because I saw he didn't get a lot of burn with, I think it was Dandenong in NBL 1 South. Dropped back to Big V and absolutely went off. And so I was actually kind of wondering, where's he gonna fit? Because but he's certainly taken that form, and he was really good, really energetic. Can shoot over most people.
Yeah, he's a big unit too. He's a legit 6'8", 6'9" there, and moves well there. So yeah, he's I'm looking forward to see how he can continue after having that big game there.
Yeah, I mean, Hills, as you mentioned, that first quarter, though, 1 of 10 from 3-point range in the first quarter. But I think they were getting good looks on a lot of occasions.
Yeah.
They just weren't falling on a lot of occasions. I think Hills, they set screens for shooters really well. I think it really opens up their offense.
Yeah, look, I think the difference for the Bandits and that, especially that first half as well, that kept them alive in the game was the offensive rebounds. I think they had a 14-6 offensive rebound count there. We know the veteran Majuk was just grabbing rebounds all night. As a lifelong Wildcats fan, Lockie, I'm pretty excited to see him in the NBL 1 East and playing with Lockie Cummings, another guy that had a little bit of time with the Wildcats back in the day. So. But yeah, I think that was the big difference for them. Their field goal percentages were down, but they were getting second opportunities with those O boards there.
And another player I'd like to get, I'm sure you've seen a lot more of him than I have, is Ben Williams. What can you tell me about him? Because I think it's probably first or second time I've watched him, and he looked really solid.
He really did. I mean, I think he was at 8 points in 8 minutes. I think it was only less than 8 minutes. Yeah, he's a young guy that Hills got over from Norths. They've sort of rated Norths a little bit last year. They got Josh Payne, who was actually missing in that game. We should say that. Josh Payne, who's had a really good start to the season, and as I like to call him, the GOAT of the Hills Hornets men's team, Liam Moss. Both of those two were not playing in this game. But yeah, Ben Williams has really impressed me so far. He's got some good height. He's probably a good 6'4", 6'5", moves really well, very good defender. But yeah, look, to be able to come on in a game where you were a little bit undermanned and put up those quick 8 points was impressive. And look, I think that's the sort of game that might, potentially make him earn a few more minutes there. Reece Potter's obviously, Hills coach there is a big fan of the young kid there. So, yeah, he's an exciting one to watch for the Hornets.
Yeah, and he was doing it in different ways as well. It wasn't.
That's it. I really notice his defense when he comes on. I think that's a lot of the Hornets guys. I mean, maybe when you've got an example like Saxon Orsini who just comes out like the Energizer Bunny and plays that defense, I think it becomes infectious. And we've seen, a little bit of Josh Payne doing that. We know Paif Mamoisi is a great defender, but yeah, Ben Williams seems like he's got that, the defensive sort of ability as well.
100%. So it was 22-17 Albury-Wodonga after the first quarter, but something that stood out to me in a quarter that had only 39 points scored, 13 of those, 7-6 Albury's way, was second chance points. What did you make of the team's rebounding in that? Because that seems like a lot of second chance points to give up.
Yeah, it felt like maybe both teams just weren't sort of, knowing their assignment and knowing who to put a body on there. We mentioned Majuk. I mean, geez, you've got to get a body on that guy, of course. But, Hills were also getting some second opportunities as well. But, yeah, to see, 20 offensive rebounds in a half of basketball is almost unheard of, I would have thought there. But, yeah, maybe just players missing their assignments and, not getting that body on the player they're defending there. But I think maybe both teams corrected that a little bit in the second half, and that was probably a pretty big message from the coaches there going into that second half.
Yeah, and I mean, yeah, like we had Ed Carr flying in for an O-Rensive round putback. We had young Charlie Sutton there for Albury-Wodonga going a couple of O boards. But yeah, I think Hills, they were down 5 after a quarter, but I felt like it could have been closer. I felt like I didn't feel like they were, I felt like they could have taken more opportunities. And I think there were times throughout, especially probably in the first half, where both teams probably missed a few opportunities. And I say in the first half, but it probably went throughout the game.
And look, maybe relying on that 3-point shot a little bit is, too much, as you mentioned with the Hornets there. It was a pretty slow start. As we said, they did correct that in the second half. But, yeah, it was just maybe finding that, rhythm of the game there. Look, it's not an excuse, but it is a massive road trip to get there. So, perhaps a little bit of fatigue for these Giants sitting on a bus, on the way to Albury-Wodonga there. But, yeah, I think they did sort of settle that after that early start. And, yeah, it's really set up a big second half.
Yeah, so... for moving to the second quarter, I mean, the first thing I wrote down for the second quarter after 2 minutes was, with the looks Hills are getting, Albury-Wodonga were very fortunate to be winning. They were up 24-22, but so that's 5-2 to start the quarter. But I really thought Hills, they were doing everything but putting the ball in the basket at this stage. They love a handoff. And they love guys coming from the corner to make something happen. And I thought they did it really well and just couldn't put the ball in the basket very much.
True. Look, eventually those shots are going to start to fall there. And I think the thing with Albury as well, there was quite an even spread there. They had, 4 guys really contribute. I think a couple of guys got over 20 points. Both teams didn't use all their bench players. I know Hills were a couple of people down. I think they only travelled with 9 players, and a couple of guys didn't really do much for the Bandits there. But yeah, and I definitely understand what you were saying there. You can sort of see they were getting good shots, the Hornets there, and you know they're not going to continue to miss those shots there. And missing Josh Payne and Liam a little bit from the outside are probably, they're arguably the Hornets' 2 best 3-point shooters I would have seen. You've probably seen a bit of Josh Payne though, right, Lockie?
I actually haven't seen a lot of Josh Payne, because he really came into the league after I started becoming the Sutherland and Comets commentator. So
sure.
Players that came in pre-COVID, I saw a lot of, but yeah, now I'm more locked into just two clubs. I don't see as much of a. I mean, I do hear the stories of him going off for 40 in UBL Grand Finals and things like that. But yeah, it's tough. Yeah, I mean, you watch these guys, but yeah, it's, in terms of watching them regularly, it's a bit harder.
Well, he was probably the Hornets' best player in that road wing they had against Newcastle in round one. They had the big road double win at West, which they lost, and then away at Newcastle there. And he was probably the Hornets' best player. He went for, say, 23 points, was really deadly from the outside there. So, yeah, another person they've got over from Norths. And I think look, there have been a lot of changes with this Hornets team. It's, with the women, I think they literally had maybe 2 or 3 new players and not, main players. Obviously, Piper Anderson's a big one. But for the men's team, I think there was only 5 players that came back from the team. It was really pretty much only paid from Moisia, Saxon Orsini, Liam Moss, and then you're bringing back, obviously, Meekness Payne there and Jacob Foy. So you're only bringing back a small core of that team. So recruiting well. We mentioned Gulma Jack and Ben Williams, Josh Payne, and then the other guy we haven't mentioned yet as well is Sean Stewart, the import point guard who just tore it up in the NBL 1 West last year. And he's one of those players, like you didn't even really notice him that much, I thought, in that game, but he ended up with 20 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, and geez, he's a fast guy. He's just a blur on the court.
Yeah, that was, and in the second quarter was, I think, the first time we really saw him use that speed. There was 2 plays in a row where Gumajak set a screen for him, and he just barreled straight past the defender and went to the rack. Yeah. It was two in the space of 40 seconds, and I was just like, all right, this is the Sean Stewart I've been told about. I've seen in the highlight reel.
I feel like he lets the game come to him a little bit. He doesn't sort of go out 100 miles an hour at the start of the game. We did see that in the first week against Inner West when I think people were touting him as a potential MVP. I think our good friend Matt McQuaid said something similar, and he was a little bit quieter the last couple of weeks. But yeah, he was really impressive in this game. And I'm always a big fan of a team having an import point guard. That's always been a big one for me. We haven't really seen Hills do that over the years. They've had a shooting guard, and normally they go 3s or 4s there. But I like a team getting an import point guard and just controlling and driving that offense for a team there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, like import or NBL player,
one or a 5.
Yeah, and I think especially. I mean, I like import big men because I think there's a lot of like what Manly of Warringah have done with getting Emmanuel Shamunga in. That has changed them immediately.
Who had this on their bingo card that Manly would be playing this well? I mean, we weren't sure. They lost Mason Bragg, they lost Eldridge, and then bringing these two imports, Slazinski's just unbelievable. And he's talking about an MVP candidate. He would have to be first choice at the moment, you would have thought. Maybe with apologies to Todd Blanchfield.
He would have to be there or thereabouts, and he's already talking about wanting to stay in Australia long term. So
why not, right? Manly's a pretty nice part of the world to live in.
Certainly is. Am I allowed to say that as a Cronulla man? It's a bit of a Beaches rivalry.
Yeah, that's true. No, well, they're both nice places, right? Yeah.
Actually, I also spent the first 4 years of my life living in the Hills District, so got everywhere.
Oh, nice. So you know what it's like to travel an hour to get to a beach then, right?
I certainly do. I mean, as the second quarter wore on, I think just looking at my notes here, I think Albury started to utilize Blaylock and Majuk a little bit more and a little bit better as it went on, especially those getting the ball off the block, just on the block there. And there were a couple of times where they just found the pass. I just think it opens up so many options for them, having those guys who can pass out of the block like that. And they did it a few times in that second quarter.
Yeah, I mean, look, Blaylock's a quality player, isn't he? And that's what's perhaps surprising for this Bandits team. You've got some of the talent of Blaylock and Majuk and Cook, who I'm sure we'll talk about as well. I thought he was really impressive in that mid-range game. And, a veteran point guard in Lockie Cummings. This is in his second stint with the Bandits now, I believe. But, yeah, Blaylock was someone that sort of came alive a little bit. I think a lot of the offense in the first half was getting it down to the low block to Majuk, and he was also popping out for the outside shot as well. But yeah, Blaylock is he's a big guy. He had double-figure rebounds in this game as well. But yeah, I think it's just getting this team to mesh together now, because there's no doubt they're a talented team, the Bandits. They don't seem like a Northern 4 team to me. Again, it's probably showing how much the East has improved. But I mean, how much have you seen the improvement of this league, Lockie? We've been, doing it since the very first week of the East now. And, back then, like Lockie Cummings was kind of a big name player there. Look, this guy had NBL on his resume. Not a lot of teams had imports in that first season now. And I mean, now you're just getting teams with loaded talent, imports, young college stars, current NBL players, former NBL players. So it's great to see, isn't it?
Oh, 100%. I think in the first season of NBL 1 East, we sort of referred to it as Waratah League with a new paint job.
Yeah.
But since then, it has evolved so far beyond that. Like teams that would finish maybe 8 and 12 or so this year would be league winners 5 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just the scene has completely changed, and everyone's getting 2 imports or 2 imports and an NBL guy, or it's just changed so much, and it's long may it continue.
Absolutely. Yeah.
I mean, we've talked about the haves and the have-nots in the league, and hopefully that all works its way out. But I mean, you only got to keep up with the Joneses a bit.
I also think we're super lucky to have COE as an NBL 1 East team. I mean, you think of some of the players we've got to call the last few years of them. Your Rocco Zakarskis, your Johnny Furphy, Tui, Ben Henschel, those sort of guys. So I'm looking forward to see Luke Paul go about this year. I don't know. Do you guys have COE?
I think I do get COE this year, either at Comets or Sutherland. I know the 3 clubs I don't call are Bankstown. I think I don't call Bankstown, Hills, and one other this year. So so I know, I'm pretty sure COE. I might get COE.
Yeah, no, it's always a fun one to see. Well, maybe we can catch up for a road game and go and see Bankstown, because we're not going to get to see him anywhere else.
Yeah. So, one thing I want to mention at the end of this second quarter, because it was a 2-point game, and I'll come back to it at the third quarter as well, the defense from Albury-Wodonga on the final play of the first half to let Hills get Orsini open for the buzzer-beating layup. That was absolutely criminal. I'm sorry. It really was. They just left him wide open.
Yeah. And what was the final margin in this game?
2 points.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think there's another play I want to refer to later, but I remember we reviewed a game last year where Illawarra got out of jail against Inner West, but they were only in trouble because Max Clark had 2 buzzer beaters and tacked 5 points onto Inner West score, where they would not have been in the game with a minute to play without those.
Yeah.
But as you mentioned...
I was going to say, I don't know what the foul situation was as well, but I'm always, when I'm on the mic saying, look, if you've got a foul to give in that situation, do not let the team get a shot up. If you've got someone that, I don't know, maybe they were in the bonus end, but you've got to guard for the full quarter, don't you? You can't allow sort of little slip ups like that in what was such a tight and close game.
And I mean, it was 43 apiece, as you mentioned earlier, with at half time. Very tight, remained very tight throughout the game. And I think one other point I want to make about the second quarter for Albury-Wodonga is it was maybe both teams a little bit. Definitely I noticed it more with Albury-Wodonga. There were a few occasions where it felt like they were putting shots up early in the shot clock because it didn't look like they were sure they were going to get another opportunity, if they pulled it out and tried something else. And it just led to a few lower percentage looks than they probably could have got otherwise.
Yeah, no, fair call. And look, you wonder if it sounds simple, but if confidence is the thing that's on their mind now, because you lose those first 3 games, you have the coaching change, 0-4 in this league, Lockie, that's pretty hard to come back from. Look, I'm not saying that they're out of finals. That'd be silly to say that now, but 0-4, you're in a pretty reasonable hole, I would have thought there. And if you lose 1, even 2 more, and you go 0-5 or 0-6, you can almost kiss finals goodbye. So maybe it was a little bit of nerves and a little bit of, not wanting to make a mistake there and trying to rush things there. But yeah, interesting that.
But I'm interested to get your opinion on the first few minutes of the third quarter, because to me, it felt like a time where Hills could have broken this game wide open. I felt like they stifled Albury Wodonga completely and just couldn't get it done at the offensive end.
It was a pretty ugly start to that third quarter, wasn't it? There wasn't a lot of points on offer in the first, 4 or 5 minutes or so. But yeah, you're right there. Hills were getting some stops and just not capitalising down the offensive end and sort of making the Bandits pay there. And look, I think they eventually settled things down, and it ended up, picking up a little bit the scoring in that third quarter there. I think it ended up being Hills 25-21. So after the slow start, they still got 25 in a quarter, which was their, pretty much the second highest quarter of the game for them there. But yeah, I thought the same thing. Having those opportunities and just couldn't quite push that lead out and get a little bit ahead of the Bandits.
Yeah, I think there was. I wrote down that they could have started on a 6-0 run. They had 2 fast break opportunities that they blew. One was tipped away. One they just straight up blew, and then Blaylock blew past Meek Payne, and Majuk ends up at the free throw line off the offensive rebound, and it was back to, I think, a 2-point game at that stage. But I did enjoy the defense of Jacob Foy on a lot of plays in this game. I would like to see more from him offensively. He was 2 of 6 in this game, but 1 of 5 from 3-point range. But I really thought he made up for it defensively throughout the game, which is, he is listed. He's on the score sheet as captain. Is he the captain officially? Because I know they chucked the captain tag on score sheets willy-nilly a little bit.
No, he's definitely the captain for this year. And look, he's very highly regarded by the coaching staff there. And I noticed that as well. Look, the shot wasn't really dropping for him in that game, but he's another one of those guys. I mentioned about Ned Carr. He's probably Jacob Foy's a little bit bigger than maybe what you think there. He's a strong-bodied guy. He's a legit sort of 6'3", pushing 6'4" maybe in shoes. But yeah, he is pretty physical. And I like that, right? If someone's maybe not contributing on the offensive end, that's fine. You have these games from time to time, but step it up on the defensive end. And I think he's got that good all-round defensive game that he can probably guard, probably 3 or 4 positions on the court, which is super important there. And yeah, I think that was a good call you made on Jacob's performance there.
Yeah. But we look midway for all the scoring that got done as the quarter went on. The team, I still feel they just had a tendency to just fall back into bad habits. Especially during the middle. They almost wanted. They were like, we've got to be the team to break this open, and a few fast break opportunities or trying to create fast break opportunities that perhaps weren't there. Do you think?
Yeah, maybe forcing things a little bit there. It was a tough quarter though, wasn't it? Because it almost felt like Hills were the better team, but they went into a 4-point break at 3-quarter time, and it was absolutely anyone's game there. And yeah, had they maybe capitalised on some fast breaks there, or hit a couple of those shots early when we had that, when the Hornets had that ascendancy there, it could have made a difference. But maybe they just wanted to set us up for a good game of the week.
I will mention. I will say though that you're 100% right on Sean Stewart letting the game come in and feeling his way in, because he really ratcheted it up as this quarter continued, and as a scorer, as a facilitator, I think he ended with 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. So he was definitely making the right decision. And I'm really looking forward to he and Meek Payne getting more games under their belt together, because I really think they could be a good combination. I think they showed glimpses of it throughout this game.
Look, I know they're sharing a house together this year, so they're certainly getting to know each other pretty well. And look, it was great for the Hornets getting Meek Payne back. I mean, you don't see a lot of imports, as you well know, Lockie, that do come back for a second stint. It's unusual. Hornets actually did it with Kennedy Johnson in the women's team, and now bringing Meek Payne back as well. But yeah, look, he already seems to be really on the same page with Sean Stewart, and a lot of that high screen action that they can do with Meek Payne there, and I think that really works well, because then you've got to pick your poison. Do you want to let Sean Stewart with a full head of steam drive to the basket, which he's wanting to do on you, or do you let someone like Meek Payne, screen and pop there and have that open three? He's great from the top of the key and those wings as well in that situation there. So yeah, I think there's what have they played 4 games together, that combination now. So I think that's going to be a pretty good duo to watch going forward.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I wrote down was there was one possession. Payne was trying to cook a defender. It didn't work. Whoever it was just staying in front. Meek pulled it out, gave it to Sean, set the screen, and Sean just blew straight past the defender, laid it home. And it just looked like they'd done it 100 times before.
You mentioned those stats about Sean as well, though. Like Sean Stewart, it almost didn't feel like he was that dominant. You look at the stats at the end, I'm like, wow, okay, I didn't really notice that he had 20 points, 8 rebounds, and 7 assists. And he's done that in a couple of games. I think maybe that first week against Inner West, it stood out a little bit more. I think he went for 30 on that game, but he can pretty much put up 20 and high assist and high rebound numbers quite easily there. And I think that's the way he likes to start off. I've noticed that most games he likes to get his teammates involved first. The true point guard there, and he's a veteran. He's the oldest player on this Hornets team. I think he's 32. I'm going to say there, so he's a veteran there, but. Yeah, he's an exciting player, and another guy, just a really good character player as well. That's the sort of guys you want to get in your team.
And I think what comes with that veteran mentality is you got the basketball IQ as a veteran point guard. You can probably take a few minutes to pick out, especially in a league you haven't played in before. Is all right. This is this guy. This is how I match up with this guy. This is how I can take this guy on. Just spend a few possessions working everybody out, and then. Yeah. Picking who to go against and in what fashion.
Absolutely. And look, if you're one of the younger guys on this one, Josh Payne or Williams or veterans, someone like Sean Stewart there. So, I'm sure they're getting a lot out of those, midweek practice sessions under Reece Potter there. And I think he's going to be a great veteran presence for some of these younger guys, because it's still quite a young team. It feels like they've got a little bit younger. There's Sean at 32, and I think Liam's maybe 28. And then there's quite a gap after that. All the players are sort of either early 20s or going up to about 24, 25. So I think it's good to have that veteran presence, not only on the court, but also in the locker room as well.
Yeah, definitely. I think I struggle to think that Saxon Orsini is so young because he's been through, he made his debut, had his injury, he's been through so much. But
he has.
Yeah, I got to think back that it was only a couple of seasons that he stepped on, because it was at Sutherland that he made his debut.
That was his coming out party, wasn't it? Where people sort of really noticed him. And look, I've been telling him for a couple of years now, I see him as a future captain. I'm sure if he's listening to this, he'll get a bit of a laugh out of that. And you talk about, you're not supposed to have your favourites in the commentary booth, right, Lockie? But man, when this guy comes on, I love everything he does. He does not care who he's guarding, right? It just doesn't bother him. It could be the most high profile player in the league, Dave O'Hickey or something else like that, and he's going to just give it 110% there. And yeah, veteran at age 20 or 21 is pretty funny to see at this stage.
And I said I'd mention it. Hills, another buzzer beater to end the quarter, and it was again Albury Wodonga not picking someone up. 4 points on buzzer beaters in a 2-point game. New coach Matt Morgan, he's going to have that on game film for Albury Wodonga this week. I'm 100% sure of that.
They'll be calling that up. Also a little bit hard to watch as well with the time things never seems to match, right? So you're watching the NBL One app and it'll say there's 7 seconds left. And in my mind, I'm like, there's not 7 seconds left. That's about 3 or 4 seconds maybe. So I don't know what that is. You notice that as well, right?
I do notice that. Yeah. Because you notice it when they have timeouts or subs that the clock will reset or jump 4 or 5 seconds on the graphic. It's why I've taken, if it's a close game in the final couple of minutes, I'll be saying the time all the time when I call it, because I know watching it, you don't want the listener at home to think, why are they putting up a prayer with 9 seconds to play down 2? And it's because there's actually 1 second left.
I'm going to put that on my notes for the Saturday's game to try and let the game situation. Yeah, that's a good call.
Who do the Hornets have this?
So we've got Central Coast. Yeah,
Central Coast.
Interesting. Normally they seem to play Central Coast late in the season, but Saturday night, the Anzac Day clash. So looking forward to that. It's always a special game there. And look, two winnable games. I'm going to say that. I don't think anything's an easy game now. And we know certainly in the men's team with adding Matua Maker in those last couple of weeks. I mean, he's been pretty dominant in those first 3 games or so that he's had. But yeah, two winnable games for the Hornets, and both teams went down in that second round 2 games against Manly there. So I think both of them will be wanting to get some wins on the home court. But Who have you got for your Anzac Day weekend clash?
I got Comets Norths.
Okay. Oof. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the Norths are combined 10-0 for the men's and women's team.
Yeah. Oh, we got a comment or a question from
Mm.
SJ from Love of the Game. Do you know when Jonah Tuilada is back?
Yeah, I did say to him, I did have a chat with him last week. He's going pretty well. I think he still was saying maybe around 7 or 8 weeks.
Okay.
So I know they've got him and Paul Tarko both out at the moment, and Liam Moss, so a little bit of a casualty board there. But look, he's starting to do some work. I think he's slightly ahead of schedule from what I'm gathering there. But he's been another guy that's been a great presence around the team there. He's a fun guy. I've got to enjoy getting to know him. But he's another one that they can bring back, and if the Hornets can stay afloat and maybe stay around the 50% mark, you're bringing big guys like him back in, and even Paul Tarko, who's another pretty handy player there. So yeah, just got to try and weather the storm and bring those guys back in. But yeah, and answer that question, I'd say within a couple of months. Hopefully he's ahead of schedule. I know we've got a couple of very important injured players in the Hills women's team back and coming back, so hopefully we can get some of the guys back soon as well.
Fingers crossed. But it was 68-64 to Hills. 25-21 quarter, heading into the fourth quarter. Fourth quarter, Christian Cook, let him cook.
Wow.
When I saw his final stats and then I watched the game, I'm like, where are their points? What's going on? But as the game went on, he definitely made the fourth quarter his own for a large part of it. Starting almost first possession or first couple of possessions. Drove baseline, didn't get the shot, but showed some real aggression. And then Blaylock fired a pass up to him. He was first up court to finish and got the first points of the fourth quarter. But interesting that they had their import, or one of their imports, coming off the bench as the sixth man.
I've got to say, I didn't know a lot about Cook before the game. He seemed fairly quiet in the first half, but yeah, he really broke out in the second half. A little bit of that old school mid-range game, which we don't see a lot of these days. And he was automatic, sort of running those semi-breaks there and pulling up from, just outside the free throw line there. And he knocked quite a few shots down. Didn't do a lot else on the stat sheet, I noticed there, but, that's fine. But, yeah, 20 big points in this one. And he was someone that really gave them a fighting chance in that fourth quarter.
Certainly was. And, yeah, I think I felt like Albury Wodonga, they didn't make a lot. Like, they didn't make a hell of a lot of shots early, but they looked a lot better at the offensive end. There is something I'll get to on the defensive end, which annoyed me. They ran this little play right down in the right corner. Once with Laspina, Cummings, and Majuk, and then I think once with Cummings, Blaylock, and someone else. And it really worked for them, which I found was interesting. They could get so much done in a space the size of a postage stamp. But
they did go to that corner a little bit, didn't they? And look, I think we both probably noticed in that fourth quarter that the crowd came alive, didn't they? We know they're a very vocal crowd, and shout out to them there, but they were really, being that sixth man for Albury Wodonga there, and they gave them a chance there. And yeah, it was certainly set it up for a thrilling last 5 minutes or so. I think I stood up the whole last quarter, by the way. I just wasn't able to sit down and sit in the lounge room, sort of, being a fool and jumping around. But it was really exciting basketball.
You need to get one of these things and keep an eye on your heart rate while you watch these games.
Yeah, I have to keep an eye on that.
Well, true story. Mine hit 150 during the 2022 semi-final between Sutherland and Manly.
Wow.
Yeah, Manly came back from, I think, 12 or 14 down and got it within 2. Yeah, that was I was standing courtside. So,
mate, if it gets a little bit more than that, doesn't it automatically dial triple O or something like that? If it gets too high there, so you got to watch out for that,
right? Yeah. I mean, for all their good work at the offensive end, running sets, really looking more polished on offense, there were just still sometimes where Albury Wodonga they looked a little bit out of sync at the defensive end. There was one time, it was 8:20 or 8:18 remaining in the fourth quarter, where Ned Carr had the ball top, probably like near the free throw line, near the elbow, and Jacob Sinkarak came to double him with Majuk. And all that happened was that he ended up on Ned Carr's back, and he was just, and Ollie Lindblad just cut baseline, and Carr went, "Here, Saxon," and Saxon went, "Here, Ollie."
Yeah.
And there was no one within 15 feet of Ollie Lindblad. And I just thought, if you're going to double, you've got to get there in time, and it's got to be at an angle where you can actually impact the play. And I think that was the most notable, probably the most egregious thing that happened. But yeah, just a few defensive assignments falling by the wayside. Sean Stewart took advantage of one. But again, new coach coming in, probably got a lot of stuff to instill into his Chargers over the next couple of weeks.
For sure.
Yeah. But I mean, yeah, final 5 minutes, this game went absolutely bananas. And one thing that came back to bite Albury Wodonga was the fact they did not commit a foul.
Yep.
In the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And in a close game. And the ironic thing is they were the team that had been fouling more all night and then didn't commit one for the first 5 minutes of the fourth quarter.
I've got that on my notes and underlined as well. That was huge, wasn't it? They had one foul and then they were basically trying to stop the clock. And there was that one possession where it was basically 2 fouls, 3 fouls, 4 fouls. And all Hills needed to do was just to get it in and just hold the ball strong. I think they did that a couple of times. Meek Payne got to the line. But it was very unusual, wasn't it? Because I think they were already in the bonus themselves, the Bandits there, but they only had just the one foul in that crucial situation where you need them there. So yeah, that played a big part, didn't it?
It certainly, yeah, it really did. I mean, yeah, if we look with the final 3 minutes, it was it 83-81 Hills. Stewart hits 2 free throws to make it 85-81, and then Albury Wodonga go on a 7-0 run. How are you feeling at that point?
Yeah, not very good. It almost looked like for me that the Hornets were home, and then that 7-0 run happened, and like I mentioned before, the crowd were going crazy. I mean, those screaming kids there, they were certainly being pretty vocal, and that was very clear through the TV coverage there. But yeah, look, it certainly put a bit of a scare in me, and Hills had to compose themselves there and try and, I think they might have called maybe a couple of timeouts to try and stop that run that the Bandits were on there. But yeah, geez, that made for an exciting last few minutes.
It certainly did. I think you mentioned Christian Cook's mid-range game, and that is where it really came to life. I think he had two mid-ranges, and he also probably had the hockey assist on the other basket when Majuk got there. So he just really took over. That's what you pay your imports to do.
100%. How have you seen Majuk so far this year? I mean, I think he's settling pretty well there. He's a veteran now, but he's only 32. When I looked that up, I thought he's got to be mid-30s now. But okay, only 32. Former championship player in the NBL. But yeah, I thought he was super important in this game, and he's such a smart player too, isn't he, at both ends?
Yeah, it's one thing to have a big body in there. It's another thing to have a big body who can really play well and play smart basketball. Yeah. There's no point having a 7-footer or 6'10" or whatever height if they're going to commit 5 fouls in 13 minutes or something like that. Just having that presence is just massive. I mean, 15 points, 17 rebounds. He was only 3 of 10 from the field, but he was 8 of 8 at the line.
Yeah, automatic, wasn't he, from the line? Yeah.
Which, I mean, you probably want your big man a little bit more reliable from the field, because he's going to be getting the ball in pretty close quarters on most occasions, you'd hope. But there were a few times where he was out a little bit further than I would have thought. But I mean, you've got a guy in there between Majuk and Blaylock. They combined for 28 rebounds. So,
and probably a lot of those are rebounding their own misses, right? So, sort of missing that shot and having a follow up. And look, we mentioned right at the start of the show, we're talking about Gun Majak there. I mean, that could have been someone that was just a little bit on Majak's radar there, and knowing that Gun was there and how quick he can get up there and block those shots. So maybe he was rushing things a little bit more than normal close to the basket.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I could watch him play defense absolutely all day. And I mean, so it was 88-85 Albury Wodonga, and then story of the night for a long part, the offensive rebound, because that is what got the Hills Hornets the the shot to tie the game at 88-88. Long offensive rebound by, was it Majak with the offensive? Yeah, off a missed 43. And Meek Payne, calm under fire.
Mr. Clutch, I've been calling him all week. Yeah, I mean, he was big, wasn't he? 4 of 7 3-pointers and just 2 massive 3-pointers in the last couple of minutes there. He had the one with maybe 11 seconds left, I think it was. But, yeah, the one you're talking about, it was a possession that all Albury needed to do was get that defensive rebound, and they had a chance to really sort of, have a chance of victory there. And as you mentioned, Foy missed a shot. Gilman Jack tapped it out, and right place, right time for Meekness Payne, and yeah, nothing but net on that wing shot there.
Yeah, he could have tried to put that straight up, and just the calmness to take that dribble with Blaylock closing out at pace was But we still weren't done somehow, because Cook once again went down court and hit another mid ranger, and then you mentioned that corner three, Meekness Payne, 6 points in 20 seconds when his team most needed it, and Sean Stewart controlling the play to make it happen.
Yeah, he was. I mean, I almost thought Sean Stewart was going to try and drive in himself on that one, but just made that really good pass. And Meek Payne's very strong in those two corners there. It's a spot they like to sort of get him, running out of there. And then it's a bit more with the high screen action when he's up the top there. But yeah, look, he was wide open as well on that one, wasn't he? There was a bit of a breakdown. I think the defense were thinking the same as what I thought, that maybe Sean Stewart was going to try and take it all away and get to the rim there. But yeah, that was way too open for someone that's just seen the ball go in, a play or so before there. And yeah, that was a big shot. That was the one that got me jumping around the lounge room and probably making the neighbours think that they were living next door to a crazy person.
And I mean, it felt like Albury Wodonga almost made Sean Stewart's decision for him.
Yeah.
It was like, you've just left Meek open. I'll throw it to him. Don't worry about that. And then we're going to come back to him. Good Majak. Bolt upright against Kevy and Blaylock.
Yeah.
After 40 minutes, it's, you're out there, you're gassed. Didn't lose his discipline for 1 second.
And that's a tough one as well for the refs to call one like that. Normally they let him go in that situation. I messaged Gorm when they were on the bus on the way home, and I said, that's the game-winning block there. And look, people are going to talk about the offense and, Meek Payne getting hot with those 2 threes. But that block by Gorm Jack was the one that absolutely saved the game there, wasn't it? He just timed it so well. And, I think that's the thing about his defense there. It's his timing that stands out for me now. He knew exactly what Blaylock was going to do on that last shot. And I must admit, when I saw it happening in full speed, I thought, is this going to be a foul here? But no whistle. And then, yeah, that was just such a big play by Gorm Jack. And
then the travel call on the resulting inbound. It looked kind of weird, and the commentators didn't really mention what happened. I mean, did he? I don't know. His feet looked kind of weird there, but there wasn't too much complaining.
Well, the camera went funny at the end as well, wasn't it? Because I think Albury might have had a 3/4 court shot that the camera wasn't focusing on. You could hear the crowd. I don't know whether the time had expired. Again, a little bit hard to tell that with the clock there, but from the way the crowd were reacting, I don't know. I'm assuming that shot looked pretty good off the hands there. But geez, imagine that had have gone in and the camera missed it. That would have been a disaster.
Yeah, that's what because I watched it. I was like, wait, everyone just like cheered and then sighed. I was like, so it must have been in time.
Yeah.
I mean, we always go back and check the play-by-play and see if it counts on the play-by-play. And
true.
It's kind of all. It says 3-point floating jump shot. Yeah, Kevy and Blaylock defensive rebound. Kevy and Blaylock 3-point floating jump shot missed.
Wow.
So yeah, must have counted if it. Jeez. I mean, if it had gone in. So yeah, imagine the camera missed that. Wow,
that would have been crazy, wouldn't it?
Yeah. But as it was, the Hills Hornets just about got out of there with the win, 92-90, down. Yeah, giving up a 7-0 run and being able to, reconvene, just calm yourselves and bring it back and get the win. That's more than a win, I think.
100%. And like I mentioned as well, they would have dropped to 1-3 after that. And if they had lost that game, 1-3s, probably not where they wanted to be. But getting the big road win, that probably bonding experience with the group of guys, getting that bus ride home together. I'm sure that would have been a pretty fun bus ride. Look, maybe for the first hour before everyone fell asleep. But look, a big win. And like I said, Lockie, I think they've basically got a home game. It's maybe 5 out of the next 6 weeks. There's a couple of, doubles going on with the road game there, but a lot of games coming up from home now. And I think for Hills, that's where they've got to take care of business. They perhaps let a few slide last season against, maybe teams that they were expecting they could beat there. So, a couple of tough games coming up as well. There's Central Coast this weekend, and they've got the juggernaut of Norths the week after, and then I think there's Canberra coming to town. Have you heard about the Hunter Goodricks playing for Norths this year? It doesn't seem to be.
He's been announced, so
has he? Okay.
He has been announced. He and Hunter Madden both been announced, but I haven't heard of him. Wow. Neither of them have touched the court yet. So
and no Kawat news, because I heard rumours at the start of the season where he was going, but that hasn't been announced yet either. So maybe I'm
pretty sure I saw him at Comets on the weekend watching, but that's about it.
Ooh. Is that a scoop you're giving us right now?
No, that is just he was at the game.
Okay, fair
enough. see a lot of people at games. Yeah, I also saw Sutherland Youth League players at the Penrith Comets Youth League women's game, and they're definitely not switching clubs at this stage. So no scoops.
Yeah.
So if we look at Hills draw, it is as you mentioned, Central Coast. Then North at home. Trip to Comets, I believe, is after that.
Yes, yeah, and then I think Canberra on the Mother's Day game.
It's Canberra on the Sunday.
Yeah,
and then COE at home, Maitland away, and then Manly away, Hills at home. So good few home games, tough opponents.
There are some tough ones. Yeah,
but I tell you, speaking of Hills North, I'm not impressed that Hills and North only play each other once this season.
That's strange, isn't it? That's always been one of those ones where they traditionally have played each other twice there. So I'm pleased
because it's got the trophy. It's always been like Members Cup is played over the combined results of the
youth league games, and then the men's and the women's NBL one. So it's strange that it only is the one game. So maybe that's something we could look for with you guys on a future episode, Lockie. How that draw is determined. How does it work? Is there a reason why Hills haven't had Newcastle play for 3 years in a row, and even Penrith and Hornsby? You think the two of the closer teams to Hills Hornets, this will be the second year in a row where both of those teams don't come to town either. So,
I mean, I have been told that it's based on who you play 2 times is attempting to balance based off the results of the previous few seasons.
Yeah,
but how do you balance it when you've got you think about it, you've got last year, you had Albury women top 4, but Albury men, how do you can balance one, but then you don't balance the other kind of thing. So it's a juggling act.
We mentioned Hornsby as well. I think they're going to be big improving teams in the men's and women's. They signed a guy just out of the G League this week, and I'm blanking on his name, but his highlight package looked pretty good. And I'm sure you're all over the women's team, Lockie, how good they're going to be this year, right?
I mean, they've already shown. I mean, they were within 4 of Manly a couple of weeks ago before Manly pulled away. I mean, 2 imports, Ruby Perkins, Jessie May Hall, and Lucy Mead rounding out the starting lineup.
Where's Christine Moore been? Is she?
And Christina Moore is now back into the starting lineup. She played this weekend.
Wow.
Yeah.
Someone that can just absolutely flat out get buckets.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So as we look, we'll also take a look at Albury Wodonga's upcoming draw, because they've got the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles at home on the Anzac Day, which will be a tough matchup. Looking forward to the battle between Majuk and Shamunga in that one.
It's going to be a good one, isn't it? Yeah.
And then they go on the road for the Canberra COE double.
Wow. That is 3 brutal games. Who they got after that?
And then they're at home against Maitland after that. And then at home against Sutherland. So they have a veritable murderous road.
That really is, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I mean, look, let's say even if they get one of those games, you're talking, Manly, COE, and Canberra. Let's say they get one of those games, they're still only going to be 1-7 there. So then, a lot more.
And then after that, they're away to Comets and Inner West.
Jeez.
And then Illawarra. Who came up with this draw? Their draw must be backloaded with bottom of the table because there are. Yeah,
that's very tough. Yeah.
That is a brutal stretch of games.
And that COE Canberra double is that's a tough one there, isn't it?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, you got to back up. You've got the minutes in your league, and you got to back up against either Canberra or COE the next day. And the worst part is it's a night game, and then like a midday or 2 o'clock, you've got 18 hours rest tops. It's just
that is tough.
Horrible. Yeah. So as you mentioned, Hills now they're at 2-2, so tied for 8th as it stands in what is very early in the season. But I mean, Central Coast. What do you make of the matchup with Central Coast for the Hornets?
Yeah, I think it's like I said, I think it's one that Hills will feel they can win, but you cannot take this Central Coast Crusaders team lightly. They are, they've got some veterans, they've got some guys like, Cassidy has seemed to come back each year, and Big Aaron Redhead's been pretty handy since going back there. But I think the team's just a different team now with Matua Maker coming in. He's a big unit. He's obviously had experience as a development player with the Sydney Kings a couple of years ago, but I think he's someone that could really sort of move them up the ladder. Saying that, they were pretty poor last week against Illawarra, weren't they? I was expecting a little bit of a better game. We know how good that Illawarra team is, but they're going to be frisky, and I think they might have been one of those teams that did, I won't call it an upset, but they did beat Hills on the home court last year, and it was one of those games, and you look back at the end of the year, those, what-if type games. So I think Coach Bruce Potter will really be focusing on this game, and as we know, you can't treat anyone lightly in this league. Every game is so important and such a, short schedule as well. So, it's going to be a big one there because the week after playing North, I mean, look, they won't go in as favourites as that, especially with just that news you give me with Hunter Goodrick coming back. So, I mean, Hunter Goodrick and Fabian Kristovich, that's about as good as a front line as you can get there, I would have thought, with those two.
And, I mean, they're 5-0 even without Hunter Goodrick or Hunter Madden. I mean, they're both announced. I haven't seen either of them yet.
I think they gave some of those Kings guys just a couple of extra weeks off, didn't they, after the season finished? But man, that's going to be a tough team to beat.
Certainly is. Yeah. And as we mentioned, Albury, tough sledding, but I mean, they'll take confidence from this game. They'll take confidence from this. I mean, Christian Cook, 20 points off the bench. Maybe that becomes his role. Maybe they, start to sort a few things out, figure a few things out, and roll on. And that draw has not been kind to them in the slightest. So home game. So you'll be on the call for that one.
Yeah, looking forward to that. We'll be out there for the Anzac Day game, and it feels funny. We're around 4 coming up, and we've only done the one game against Manly, or the 2 games against the Manly teams there. So looking forward to get it out there. It's always a special game on Anzac Day, and hearing the last post and the hair on your arm standing up and all those sort of things. So it's a great day there, and of course we get a long weekend. So thanks to the government for giving us that Monday. Now it wasn't originally supposed to be a long weekend here, so that's a good thing. How are you feeling about your games on the weekend?
I'm actually really excited for Comets and North, especially on the men's side. On the women's side, no Chantel Horvat is going to make it, assuming she's not back, is going to make it very tough for Comets. But I think this Comets unorthodox or kind of unorthodox, really tall lineup is making it tricky for people. And Ty Barber Bay has just slotted into the backcourt really well. People were wondering, we lost all 4 backcourt players. We lost Ant Mundine, Bawali, Davo, and Sharif.
Yeah.
But Ty Barber Bay has just slotted in. They got Max Nesterov come down from Manly, and he just adds to the height of the team. And everyone's just a lot of height, makes it tough for teams. Obviously, North, bring a bit of height themselves and some very well-credentialed height. I've
got to say, I love me some Obi Shea as well. Love everything about that guy, and he's one to watch.
Yeah, he's definitely one to watch. And his little battle with Jaden Tanevsky against Sutherland in round 1 was very fun to call, because Tanevsky, for a guy who's just come up from Waratah League, doesn't take a back step either. But yeah, the coat hanger clash, as I like to call it, as they'll come over the bridge, should be a really interesting one, and I think it'll really show us where Comets are at this stage. It's like last week they played Penrith, and I mean Penrith only fell by 15, I think, to Inner West earlier in the season, but I think we had a 34-8 quarter and won by 50 or so. So not really a lot to take in terms of position on the ladder there.
There's been some big margins in the men's and women's games already this year, hasn't there? Just some 40, 50, 60-point wins, which is
I think there's been 3 70-point games in the women's, which is which is not great. I do have it on good authority that Penrith women are adding an import big though.
Okay, interesting.
So that'll help.
What's your strategy in those games when you're calling and a team's up by 50 points in the fourth quarter? It's a tough one, isn't it?
It is a tough one. I just try to roll through it. It's actually, I was debuting a new co-commentator at Comets last week.
Okay, nice.
It was a tough introduction in the men's game, but fortunately the women's game was a close one.
Good to see you taking them under your wing as well, mate.
I actually really enjoy it. I enjoy commentating with new commentators. And
nice. Yeah. We still haven't had the opportunity to call a game together as well, so maybe that's something that will happen sooner rather than later as well.
Fingers crossed. I think I have one round off. I still have to look at the draw on the round I have off and make some phone calls. So
nice.
Might have to make my way up to the Hive.
Very good. Well, you know they've got a good canteen there, right? Everyone knows.
They've got a good canteen because my dad did the flooring for the new area.
Oh, nice.
Yeah,
very good. Very good.
I've had many a meal at that canteen over the years with our Waratah.
The hot chips and chicken salt, you can't go wrong there, can you?
The old standard.
Yeah.
But I think unless you have any final takeaways from the game you'd like to share with us.
No, I think that pretty much about covered it. Look, I am glad when we sort of did talk about this game being the game of the week, and that was probably me being a little bit biased there, but we got an absolute cracker, didn't we? I mean, imagine we picked the game of the week and it was one of these 70-point margins we spoke about before, so I'm glad we got a really exciting one to watch there, and looking forward to another big round this weekend.
So it's going to be great, yes. Of course, it all starts on Friday night with the game of the week, Comets Bruins, just so happens to be two teams I have jerseys from, fortunately. And then rolls on to Anzac Day, big day. Some traditional Anzac Day matchups like Sutherland Illawarra, down at Illawarra, always a big one. And then rolls on to Sunday as well. But usually it's my line. But Robbie, what do we like to tell everyone at the end of every episode?
Well, of course, Lockie, and thanks for Squin for letting me fill in her shoes, but don't sleep on the East.